Hey, it's Jared. I have another Notion tutorial for you. Today we are going to create an expense log. Now, I decided to create an expense log because I have a variety of different accounts that I make purchases from and a lot of different things just going on. I mean, my wife and I both make purchases. I have business and personal expenses, and there's just always a lot going on, and it's hard to keep track of it all. And so I wanted to build out an expense log that would let me kind of keep track of the things that I'm spending money on, photos of them for just organizational purposes and also for insurance purposes should I ever have an issue, a place to put receipts, of course keeping them by date, the amount spent, whether they're business or personal, the category that they go in, the account that the payment came from, whether it was my wife or I that made the purchase, whether it was a write-off, and then I have some other items as well. And today we're going to look at building that together. I think that this is extremely important because as taxes and keeping track of all of our stuff is important, a lot of us have side projects and different things that we're working on, and so we need to make sure that we keep track of our write-offs and all of our expenses. I think it's just a good general practice, even if you don't have any typical write-offs or anything like that. So we're going to look at building this together. Of course, I do these tutorials looking at building these things together so that you can get a better understanding of how to use Notion. But of course, you can come to my template directory here and just utilize the template and install the template, but I highly recommend that you build it and customize it to your needs. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the plus to quickly add a page. You might want to do that from the very top level as I did to get my expense log right here in my top level area, but I'm going to add it as a page so that it becomes available as a template for all of you. And I'm going to call it my expense log. Now you might want to call it something else like receipts or purchases or whatnot. For me, I went with expense log. We're going to start this out as a database table, and then we'll look at some additional views that we can create for this as well. So we'll start out by clicking table, and now we have an expense log and a table. I'm going to add a emoji to it. We will just go ahead and choose like the something money related, and since it's expenses, we'll choose the money flying away. I liked that one. An empty database is going to give us 3 entries, tags, and files. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name here to description. I battled as to whether or not I would utilize this as the name of the company or business that the purchase was made from, or a description of the item. I also ended up having originally a vendors category so that I can choose the place that it came from, but that list was just going to get too crazy. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to try my best to have the receipt here. I can always look at the receipt to see where it came from. I would rather have a description. So we're going to give ourselves a description here in this name tag. This is the first column, and the first column cannot be deleted. All you can do is rename it, and it is a text-based entry here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is move files over, and I'm going to change this to item photo. Now, as I mentioned before, item photo is going to be really good because I can take pictures of things and keep them logged here along with the receipt, and it'll be great for insurance purposes. I'm going to change this tags here to a file and media as well, and we're going to rename this one to receipt. So a lot of times I get a actual receipt if I make a purchase in person, and I will take a picture with my phone and scan that receipt in and put it here. Or if I get a PDF or something like that by email, I can easily drag and drop the receipt right in here after saving it to my computer. So next thing we're going to do is add a date. This is going to be a manually selectable date. And the reason that we're going to do it that way, as opposed to have it automatically add the date in dynamically like through the created time is so that I can go back and do this later. I'm not going to do this every day. I plan to maybe once a week go through all of the purchases from the previous week, all of my expenses, and put them in. And so I want to be able to choose the date myself. And this is also going to become the order, the sort order for our expense log is to sort by date. Now we want to enter in the total or the total cost, and so we'll type in total. We'll choose a number, but by default, it's just a standard number. We want it to automatically make it a dollar, and so we are going to go to Format Number, and we're going to choose dollar. Now you also have a lot of other options here if you're not here in the US and you want to format that correctly for your specific currency. So next to that, we will add an area. This may not be as important for you as it is for me because business or personal are the two different categories for me. So I'm going to type in personal and then I'll type in business, and those will be my two options. And of course, you can come in here and color code those however you would like. By default, they just choose their own color, but we'll go ahead and choose those. So you may not need a personal or business. You may want to change the area and make this whether it is personal or family or something like that. You know, just choose the different areas in your life that these purchases will take place, because we can't necessarily do that in categories, because we might have the category of dining, and dining, you want to track your personal dining, but you also want to track your family dining or the dining that you do with other people. And so you can choose personal or family. You can add areas, and then you can add your categories. And so next we will add a category, and we will also make that a select. So the difference between the select and the multi-select is that select only gives you the option to choose one. Multi-select allows you to choose multiple things. And so depending on how strict you want to get with your categories, a lot of times for like tax purposes, you have to choose a category. It doesn't let you put it in two different categories. So for me, I'm going to use the select option, and we can just add a couple in here. I'll go ahead and fill them out for the template, but we're going to add in dining as one. We can add groceries and then add in automotive, create, housing, create. And so you can add a bunch in here, medical, and then this way you can organize all of these by their category. And of course you can expand this out. I like to alphabetize them also just to make it easier for me to kind of get through them. And so I will fill these out. If you are building along with me, you can go into the template section of this deal here. I'm going to move this right up to where it belongs here under Life and Organization. You can click on Expense Log. You can click on the categories, and you can see all the categories that I am utilizing in there, and I will add in more for you. Now we're going to choose and type in account into a new column here. This is also going to be a select, and this is where you choose the account in which it was paid from. So you might have personal checking. And for me, I did personal check debit because it comes out of the same account whether you use your checkbook or your debit card. And then we can put Chase Visa card. And for me, I put the digits at the end just to make it easier for me to remember. And so you could put in the different accounts there, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to even reference back and look and see if you need to deal with that payment. Go back, oh yeah, it was my Visa card, so I contact Visa. Very easy to figure out where your purchases came from and all that good stuff. Now, if you are married, you have a spouse, or you share your expenses and everything with someone else, you might want to add a who paid column like I did, and then of course a select, and you can put you, or just put like husband and wife. You could put your kids in there if they are old enough that they are making their own purchases. And so that works out for me because I'm able to sort and look at my own expenses versus expenses that my wife is making. And then, of course, as my kids get older, I may want to add in their names as well. So the next thing for me as a small business owner is this a write-off? Now, I don't always know for sure whether something is a write-off. It may or may not be a write-off. So I put a column in here that is a checkbox, and I can check these off. And then when I am going to do my taxes with my CPA, I can give my CPA this awesome categorized spreadsheet, because I can export all this as a spreadsheet, and then my CPA can sort by what I think a write-off is, and of course he can look and see and confirm those for me, so pretty neat. Now I'm going to add a notes section. I don't always use the notes section, and I'm going to make it a text entry here. The notes section is just if there's anything that I need to add to help me remember what that purchase is for, then I might want to do that. And then I also added in a checkbox column for returned, because a lot of times, we have a purchase that we ended up returning or something like that, and I still want it to be in my expense log, but I want it to be marked as, whether or not it was returned, and that way I can still look and see the purchases that I made, even if they were returned. So typically, I would have an entry in here, like say I had like Apple AirPods, photo, receipt, date, the price. If I returned it and hit that checkbox there, all I would do is zero out the price, or if there was a restocking fee or something like that, I would fill in the amount that that transaction was now, which is pretty neat. Now, I have also tied into other databases here, because as a small business owner, sometimes I will go and get coffee with a client, or I will meet with a client or something like that, and there's some sort of little expense. So I create a link to a database. So I'll go and choose relation, and then I'll choose interactions, and interactions is my calendar. And so my interactions calendar, and then I would type in interactions. And so my interactions here, I can then tag a meeting or something like that that would show up in my actual calendar. And so now I can tie in expenses to calendar entries, which is pretty cool as well. I've also done this for tasks, because sometimes completing a task requires making a purchase. A lot of times for doing projects for clients, I'm working on their website, and there's some sort of a plugin or something like that that I need to purchase. And so I can link my expenses to tasks as well. And then that way I'm able to track all of that, and it just works out really neat. Now, one thing I did in my totals column here is went down and chose calculate sum, which is going to give me the dollar amount as I continue to add items to my expense log. So, of course, that can be kind of nerve-wracking, because that dollar amount just adds up and gets pretty crazy, but it is what it is. So we've got a pretty decent little expense log built out now. Now we need to set up some customized views so that we can view our expenses in different ways. And then we're going to go in and we're going to add a couple, and I'm actually going to do that with my smartphone so that you can see how I typically add in expenses throughout my week. So for these two basic expenses, we're just going to leave them in there for right now. I'm going to click Add a View, and we're going to choose View All by Date. And so that's going to be a view here. And then I'm going to choose Sort, Add a Sort, choose Date, and then Date Descending, which means that my most recent expenses are going to be at top. So if I have today's date here, and I have that's yesterday's date, and then I have, say, the day before down there, these are going to be in that order. And if I change this one to earlier in the month, you can see it actually reordered it automatically. So view all by date is one of those views that I like to have. I also like to have, for the purposes of business and personal, is two sort options for business and personal. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the default view, because I don't need that one now. And so we'll just remove that. And I'm going to go ahead and create a personal expenses. And so with personal expenses, we have that one selected. Make sure of that. And then we're going to choose filter, add a filter. Area is personal. and you can see it removed that business one. Now it's very easy to create a additional. I'm going to go ahead and click here, choose duplicate, and it says copy of personal. I am now going to rename that to business expenses. And then, of course, with business expenses selected, I need to go to that filter and change it. And so now when I toggle between business and personal, it's changing what is being displayed, which is pretty awesome. Or I can go to view all by date. So that's pretty neat. Let's go ahead now and add in a couple of items into the database here. And we'll do that with my smartphone. And now we are looking at what we were looking at on the computer, just with the smartphone. And we have our two basic fake entries here that we had created. Now I can actually just go ahead and delete these because I don't need them. So we're going to delete both of these basic entries that are fake, and we're going to enter in some real items here. So we'll delete those out. Now I'm going to tap on New, and we'll type in AirPods Pro. Now from the account, I'm going to go ahead and choose one of our accounts. I'm going to choose whether it's personal or business. We'll choose a category. I can choose a category. This would be kind of like a personal expense, so I might want to add a category. So we're just going to add personal and click on create. I'm going to choose the date. We'll just put an earlier date in the month, even though I did purchase these a while ago. And then we're going to choose item photo. And I need to make sure that I have my AirPods sitting here ready to take a picture of. I'm going to tap and choose take a photo or video. And you can see now it has brought up my camera. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture of my AirPods like so and hit use photo. And it's going to upload that photo. We'll tap done. I can add some notes. If I have a copy of the receipt, I can add that. We can put in the total price. I don't remember how much they are, but we'll just put in $179.99. Who paid? I did. And are they a write-off or not? We don't know. So we have one item there that we have entered. Pretty awesome indeed. Now I'm going to go and add another item. So we'll just tap to go back to our expense log here. You can see we've got our one item that we have put in place. I'm going to go ahead and tap on New, and we'll put in Benchmade Bug Out Knife. We'll choose the account, choose the area, choose the category, we'll choose the date, an item photo, take a photo, and there we go. Use photo. And when it's done uploading, then we're going to have a second item in here. And we'll hit done. And I don't have the receipt with me. How much was it? I think it was like 125. Notice how it converts it automatically to dollars because of the way that we set that up. And I paid. And there we go. So now we have a couple of items entered in, actual items, and I know that I didn't have the receipt. You would essentially attach the receipt in the same way. You can either take a picture of your receipt, or if the receipt was emailed to you, you can save the receipt file and then add it that way through your computer or from an email. But the last view that I want to create with you here is a calendar view, which I think is kind of a cool view. So we'll type in calendar view. We'll choose calendar and hit create. And you can see here that now we can view our expenses on a calendar, which is a neat way of viewing our expenses as well. Now, of course, when you have a lot more expenses entered in, it will look a little bit more exciting than this, but I think you can get the idea. So there's lots of different ways that we can create additional views. You may find interesting ways that you want to create views for your own expenses. There are a lot of different database views here, like the board view might be interesting. If you wanted to look at the different categories. And so I guess we don't have too many categories here, but when you have the categories and you do the board view, that's kind of an interesting one. as well. Just to show you, we'll go into my expense log here and we'll do a add view. We'll do by category. We'll do a board view like so. Hit create. And what it's going to do is bring in all of our, it's actually choosing by account. So we'll go and change that to category. No category. There are a lot of items that I still have that I need to go in and categorize. But this is kind of a crazy mess here. And as we zoom through and across, we can see all of my different categories. So I might want to limit the amount that is being shown. Of course, I do need to add a sort. And we can sort by date, and I could sort by date descending, but I also might want to filter and only see the last 30 days of what is being shown. And so I would go in and choose date is after 1 month ago. And so that's going to show me just items from this last month. And I've actually done that in my last 30 days sort here. So this is just showing me my last 30 days, and its date is after 1 month ago. And then I also did a 7 days ago, which is date is after 1 week ago. So you can see there's a lot of interesting ways to kind of set up different views so that you can see your expenses in different ways. What's nice about this is that you can go and export all of this just by tapping export right here, and you can create a spreadsheet or a PDF or something like that that has all of this data there. So if you ever had a loss, a burglary or a fire or something like that, and you needed to present all of this stuff to your insurance, you would have a nice document that you can send them. And of course, not everything like groceries and stuff like that can typically be claimed or whatnot, but it's something that you can sort by, and you can show the items that you actually have because we've got photos of those items. These are things that insurance companies want. And then, of course, for tax purposes, lots of good data here as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. It's definitely a lot of fun for me. I've gone kind of crazy down trying to get 2020 set up in my expense log by exporting expenses from my different bank statements and going through them and sorting all of that stuff and importing them in here. It was a little more advanced to do, and this, of course, is just an introduction to getting something like this set up. But in the future, I may actually show you how to take a export of data out of something else and format it correctly so that you can get it into your Notion database here. So if that's something that interests you, definitely let me know down in the comment section below. But that's going to do it for today's tutorial. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you back here soon.